We move on once again and now over to Europe as Russia and Ukraine truce talks progress. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that he would be willing to meet Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin in Turkey personally, after Donald Trump said direct talks were needed to determine whether peace was possible. Listen in to what Zelenskyy has said.
Буду в цей четвер, 15 травня, в Туреччині. І очікую на Путіна в Туреччині. Особисто. І сподіваюся, що Путін цього разу не шукатиме причин, чому він щось не може. Ми готові говорити, щоб закінчити війну. Четвер. Туреччина. Президент Трамп підтримав. Всі лідери підтримують.
The Kremlin did not immediately respond to Zelensky's offer, and the Ukrainian leader did not say whether he would still attend if Russia refused a 30-day ceasefire proposed by Kyiv and its allies. Meanwhile, Putin on Sunday proposed to resume talks between the two sides held in Istanbul in March 2022, but he did not respond to the 30-day ceasefire proposal put forward by Kyiv's allies. Moscow and Kyiv had not held face-to-face negotiations since March of 2022, shortly after Russia and Ukrainian war broke out. US President Trump wrote on his Truth Social platform earlier, President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the bloodbath. He has further said that Ukraine should agree to this immediately. And we're now joined by Jim Rice, Professor of International Law, who joins us from Vigan in the Philippines. Jim, this meeting between the two leaders of the two countries that have been at war for the last 3 years seems unprecedented, doesn't it?
Well, there's a couple of things here. First of all, Putin's apparent agreement or willingness to meet in Istanbul for face-to-face talks, I think, is completely disingenuous. It also follows the very significant meeting over the past few days of the coalition of the willing, the pro-Western European countries, including Keir Starmer and Chancellor Merz and President Macron. And they've basically been threatening or promising serious tariffs if Russia doesn't engage in serious peace negotiations. My position, my feeling is completely in agreement with the Europeans, which is how can you have peace negotiations or a peace conference at the same time that fighting is literally going on? Putin has consistently refused to agree to any kind of ceasefire apart from his fake ceasefire over his parade in front of the Kremlin. So that's the first point. But the second point, I think, is more important. And the second point is basically this. Putin does not want peace at all, because think about it. If there were to be a peace, if there were to be a semi-permanent ceasefire, how is Putin going to explain this to the people of Russia? He invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. So far, they've sustained more than 700,000 casualties. This war was supposed to take less than a week. What has he obtained? What has he achieved in all of that time with all of these deaths and all of these wounded soldiers and civilians killed? He's achieved nothing. If Putin goes home with this ceasefire or some kind of peace agreement, I believe his days are numbered as the so-called president of Russia.
Yes, and Jim, what have you made of Donald Trump's mediation on all this? We've obviously seen another Truth Social post from him urging Ukraine to accept the deal, but also Putin's reluctancy to sign this 30-day ceasefire that's been proposed by both Ukraine and the United States for weeks now. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that, as everyone knows, Trump is very pro-Putin. Trump has always been pro-Putin, and Putin has consistently aided and abetted Trump's rise to power in the United States in terms of, even before the election in 2016, in terms of shady business deals with the Russians. So apart from that, it's obvious that Trump is very pro-Putin. However, I think now with Trump getting more secure in his second term, he probably feels that he needs Putin less than he did before. And so he's been expressing some frustration of late, because I think he really wants to achieve some kind of peace deal, but I think it's not going to happen.
Jim Rice, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the program.